All right, so everyone, welcome to Getting Real Product Management bleep done using generative AI revisited. All right, in case you didn't hear, I'm Joe, he's Dean. I'm calling in from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Dean's calling in from the wonderful city of Apex, North Carolina. The two of us combined have many decades of product management experience. I
Too
think
many
I'm north of
decades.
20, Dean, and I don't want to
Yeah,
tell everyone where you are.
20, but I was, that was, I'm also a recovering engineer, 10 years of systems engineering before that.
Excellent. And we're both client specialists and trainers at Productside, and we are so excited to have all of you join our webinar today. In case you didn't know about Productside, we are, and we'll talk about this, we are an outcome-driven partner. We help organizations, teams build products that matter. And why do people select us? Well, we're on it with you in the journey, right? Just like our name says, we're on your product side. So we're here for your transformation journey. We tailor our materials for your context. And like I mentioned, we are invested experts. We come from a myriad of different industries and backgrounds, and we bring that experience in an unbiased way to your organization.
Couldn't have said it better.
All right, so rule of thumb for today. Here's the big one. We don't want this to be the Joe and Dean show. We want to hear your questions, right? Ask away. We are standing by to help. So when I'm presenting, Dean's going to be asking questions, answering questions. When Dean's presenting, I'll be checking the chat. So please, this is all about you and making sure that we can answer your questions. Now, if you want to follow along, you can view our mural page as a visitor. Mr. Peters will put the link in the chat so
Yep,
that
as
you
soon
can
as
follow. Here's the
soon as
big
my
thing. You don't need to log in. You can visit as a visitor. All right. Feel free to post your sticky notes with comments or questions. Just don't put anything sensitive about your company or questions to that fact. You can send that to us separately via LinkedIn or email or something else that's a little bit more private.
Yep, we'll get the URL just 1 second. Joe had to go through the disclaimers. He has gone through the disclaimers. There is your link.
Okay. All right. So our agenda, we got a lot to cover. So we're going to talk about getting started. We're going to talk about strategy. We're going to talk about that bridge between strategy and tactics. We're going to talk about how do we share what we've learned. And we definitely have time at the end of this webinar to answer your questions and talk about next steps. So Dean, I think this is a really good time for a question. So Jerry, if you could, we'd love to know, what are the tools you use today to get your product management stuff done? So we're going to launch that poll, and we're just kind of curious. It's going to be like a horse race right now. In the
Yeah,
lead is ChatGPT.
yeah. And by the way, it's multiple choice. You can pick more than one.
Yes. Looks like ChatGPT and Copilot are coming in neck and neck, Dean, but ChatGPT, the overwhelming favorite as the most popular product management tool. Take a look here. We'll give everyone just another second or two to complete the poll. This will be good for Dean and I to know just in terms of the tools that you guys use. We've got a couple here for Claude and Perplexity, Dean, so that's pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah. In fact, I just answered David's question using Perplexity.
Oh, very good. All right, so Jerry, let's go ahead and share the results of the poll with our audience. Thank you for those that responded so quickly. All right, so it looks like ChatGPT is the overwhelming favorite, which is no surprise, followed by Copilot, other, which I'm interested in finding out what falls in that
Yeah,
other bucket.
if you put in other, put that in the chat. We'd be curious.
I'm just going to put this in here. Okay, excellent. Yeah, we'd love to know what falls in that other. All right, so let's go through a scenario. What if you were dropped into a new product initiative tomorrow, all of us on this call as product leaders or aspiring product leaders, we have dealt with this particular scenario. And how do we deal with that? Right? One of the ways that we get dropped in is an email from our boss. Okay. Now, in our scenario, we are working for a company called Travco, and we have just launched this new autonomous parking valet product. And now our president, Mr. Peter Davila, is asking us to develop and present to our board a comprehensive concept on a new tool that he's called the Smart Park Assistant app. No pun intended when we call it SAP. But here's the scenario, right? We have to work with a group of parents who commute to our urban centers. So think of that as our segment. They're struggling to find parking. And we have an idea that we are being asked to evaluate as part of our work, right? So again, our audience is working parents in urban environments. Our goal is to enhance the lives of these working parents, and we are building upon the success of our autonomous parking valet system called SAP. Again, we are working for a fictitious company called Travco. So you have 2 weeks. Dean, we got 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I can't do it. I cannot.
I can't do it, Dean. I don't know how we're going to do
this.
Dean.
It's over. Let's just quit.
It's done. Drop the ball.
I mean, but you and I have both been in this situation in the past, right?
We have.
An email, a Slack. Many of you have as well. In fact, you could go ahead and put in the comments if you want to give a reaction. Many of us have been parachuted in or dropped in, like saying, hey, stop what you're doing, and in 2 weeks, be ready to present this to the board.
Now, in a normal scenario, right, what are the questions? So irregardless if it's AI or not, how would we address this? And any of you that have attended our training or watched our webinars, you're going to know we're going to start with the very first question, which is, what problem are we solving? Right? What is our vision and strategy? What does the market look like? And so we're actually going to walk you through the tools to help you streamline those questions. In fact, the goal of today is how can we work smarter, not harder, using our AI tools. Now, in today's scenario, and Productside has this amazing toolkit that we're going to share the link to in a minute, but there are amazing tools and templates that we use today to help answer those questions, whether it be the jobs to be done board or user journey map, or even the design thinking double helix method, or even the opportunity solution tree. There are many techniques, many tools in our toolbox that we can use to help us get from strategy to execution, right? Visualizing it, okay? Now, remember how we do this. If you've attended any training from Dean and I, you know this is one key fact of product management, and that is product management is a team sport, okay? Today, I'm going to play the role of product manager. Dean's going to play my product owner.
But we're product a tag team, right? But we're like a tag team though, right?
We are a tag team.
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to bring to you the problems. Dean, you're going to help me turn those problems into a tactical, executable solution. And the next few slides, we're going to talk about how the PM and PO and the other supporting roles can stay on the same page. Okay. It's important that both roles are part of this, and that both roles are using the same session context. We're going to talk about this in the next slide because alignment is critical. And we're going to show you how to use Gen AI tools to do both the strategy and execution, and how to do that bridge and ensure that you're on the same wavelength.
Yep.
Now, how are we going to do this?
I don't know. Should we just just share the same computer?
Well, Dean, it's all about that session starter and the context. Well, don't jump ahead.
That's right. That's right.
Don't jump ahead to Dean's on his third cup of coffee, guys. So just deal with him early, right? So how are we going to do this? How are we going to socialize and present our strategic game plan? We're going to be using a format or a technique that's inspired by the Amazon working backwards model. It's a very popular model. We actually offer a workshop on it. That's my one plug. But we're going to talk about the product management framework. We're going to start with the who and the why. What's the opportunity? We're going to move into innovation, and then we're going to talk about how do we execute? How do we implement? Okay. So, Dean, this is why everyone's here. What if we use popular Gen AI tools like, I don't know, ChatGPT or Copilot
Yeah, let's
with
use
popular
those
tech to help shape our strategy and our tactics?
absolutely. And by the way, you can use more than one tool at once. I think they call that a MOE, all right? Multitude of experts, all right? Yeah, that'll make you sound really important to your AI
An
friends.
MOE. There you go. Everyone can
An
add
MOE. So
that
yeah.
acronym to
So
their
why don't we
to their
use a
syllabus.
chain of thought process, all right, where we run these, these nice long chain of thought, what do you call it, sessions, but, do that towards the end as a Amazon working backwards to socialize what we have. But again, how do we stay on the same page?
Okay, so let's talk about this. It starts with this, Steve. It starts with getting our session started. What does that
Okay.
even mean, right? For those of you that maybe are newer in this space, what does it mean when we talk about getting our session started? So let me elaborate a little bit on this. When we talk about using tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, Gemini, there are some rules of the road when we talk about building out and using tools, right? What we don't want to do is start prompting without a plan. We have to treat our Gen AI tools like a buddy, a product management buddy. We have to let them know who we are, what our goals are, what tasks you need, and what constraints you're dealing with, and even what formats, right? We're going to show you how to do that. We're going to force you through those 9 starter questions in a minute. What we want to avoid is prompting without solution speak, right? Does your product management buddy, does your chat session understand the problem to be solved? Are you aware as a user of Gen AI tools that there is a bias, right? These tools were built by engineers. We can't ignore the fact. So there's a bias for solution over problem. Okay.
By the way, we had a quick question on socialize here. So when you're done, I'll answer that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, again, what we want to avoid is asking features with no context. Sometimes, many times, and this is why we talk about context and using AI tools, Gen AI tools will sometimes come up with the silliest or most illogical ideas because you just haven't set the proper context. It will hallucinate. You'll get hallucinations. So there's another word you want to add. And the last piece for the rules of the road is we have to create a tactical plan from scratch. We don't want to do that, right? Don't ask for a plan without strategic context. My rule of thumb here is garbage in, garbage out. So you got to be careful of creating that plan without setting that tactical or without setting that correct context. Dean, you want to answer the
Yeah, and the
question?
reason I want to answer this question is there's one more do or don't as well that we want to add to this. And it was a good, someone asked, what do we mean by socialize? And in this context, how do we communicate and create influence regarding our vision and strategy, but also how we collaborate? So we're going to show you some processes where you can start a conversation using generative AI, but never, ever, ever, ever treat it as a source of truth. Use it
Exactly.
all the time as a great conversation starter. And we cannot emphasize that point. What we're going to show you is how we're going to start great conversations with our team. But we're also going to be transparent, say, this is not a source of truth, but we thought it'd be easier to start the conversation from the middle instead of from scratch.
Yep. Now, so Dean, let's get started with the session starter. And this is part
I think so.
when I talk to a lot of my friends in this space, they get overwhelmed. They're like, Joe, what does session context even mean? Right. And this is a big part of what we do. And this is, you can follow along with us, right? Uh, when we talk about session context, Dean uses the term love languages of Gen AI. Okay. what I want to show you guys just for a hot second here is tools like ChatGPT or Copilot or even Claude, they have begun to help us with understanding how do we set the right session context. Because every time you open up a tool, a Gen AI tool, you're starting a new session. And so there's a lot of really great guides out there to help you with setting up a terrific prompt. So I'm just sharing, Dean will share the links in the chat, but here's one from Gen AI. And then here's one from Microsoft, right? When we talk about the elements of an effective prompt, right? Goal, context, expectations, and source, right? This really feeds back to what Dean was showing or what we're showing in this particular slide, okay? Remember, the big thing here is this. The session context, it's important to get this done right because this represents the bridge between what the product manager is going to do in terms of identifying the opportunity and actually sharing that session context with the product owner so they can begin to build out the roadmap and the backlog and begin to actually execute upon your strategy. So let me show you how we did this, okay?
While you're showing it, the more context you provide up front, the less hallucinations you get during the session.
Yep. Now, here's the cool thing. At Productside, we've actually built a GPT in the GPT store to help you with setting that session context. So let me just show you guys how this works. And it's really simple. Just type in Productside in the GPT store. And you will notice this amazing product manager session starter guide. Start the chat. And then you're going to just click on this option right here, which is what we actually had in the slide I just showed you a second ago. What are the 9 questions? Now, I went ahead and did this ahead of time. And I'll show you guys. Here are the 9 questions. And then what we're going to do is we're going to answer those questions. Now, I did this ahead of time, but the idea is we're setting the right context. So you'll see here, I answered all the questions ahead of time in terms of who I am, who my target audience is, what outcome do I want to achieve, what obstacles do I want to avoid, what's my tone and voice, what are my specific jobs to be done, and any concerns or caveats, okay? As well as showing some examples of other similar tools to help chat in this particular scenario understand where we're coming from, okay? Now, what I've also done is we've asked chat to do this in markdown language because, like I mentioned, this was a tool built by engineer. We want to be able to communicate between different tools. We want to be able to easily transfer it. I also want to be able to easily share this with my product owner, which is why I'm asking it to provide it in a prompt format. And I'll show you what this looks like in Mural. It looks a little bit like this. Again, we will share the URL of the chat scenario that we just did. Okay. Now, here's the question, right? We want to understand the market. We want to do market analysis of our particular scenario. So how do we do that? We actually go into Copilot. So I'm not going to do this here, but you can go into Copilot and do a TAM, SAM, SUM market analysis. So let me show you. So it was important to set the right session, to copy it. And then you'll notice in here, I'm asking Copilot to estimate the total addressable market, service addressable market, and serviceable obtainable market for commuters in the urban areas of North and South Carolina. Now, this would have taken too long if I did this live, so we worked with Dean to get this built, but you can see that we're already building additional context for our scenario. We're understanding the opportunity, okay? Now, here is the key. You'll notice I'm going to ask it to convert this to YAML. And again, I'm doing that because I want it to be easily transferable. And we know that it's one of the languages that's easily understood between the different AI tools. All right.
Yeah. So part of what Joe's doing here, he's actually creating a prompt that we're going to share and we can share it in any model once it's, so we could share this prompt in Claude, in Gemini, in, what would you call it? Copilot and others.
Right. All right. So we now have our market analysis done. Combine that with our session starter. We've now built an incredibly detailed and complex context for our session. Right. So now we're going to start off our kickoff. Right. We're going to start a new chatbot session with our starter prompt. So let me show you what I did
Yeah.
here.
In fact, Joe, while you're showing them, Joe and I are actually starting the session, and we are actually running parallel sessions, and we're actually going to hand off. We're going to do the tag team. He's going to actually hand off halfway through, and I'm going to pick up the conversation moving forward.
Now, here's a tip, right? And this is something you don't hear a lot from other individuals that do generative AI with product management. We have to constantly validate and verify that chat or whatever tool we're using understands what we're trying to achieve. And so we'll remind it or we'll ask us to validate, does it understand what it's doing? Does it understand the context that we're providing it? So you'll notice one thing that I've done here is I've asked chat to say, hey, give me 5 short, concise bullet points that will convince me you understand the entire context rather than just a sampling of it. Because like I mentioned, it is a tool built by engineers. There are some shortcuts that are built in to streamline the processes. So we're going to ask us to make sure that it's going through everything. This is your way to also make sure you're building the right context. Here's another tip. This is a starting point. You're going to have to massage it. You're going to have to make sure that it has all the detail it's needed to help you do your analysis. Now, in this scenario, chat actually did a pretty good job, Dean, of giving
Yeah,
me a
but I still
summary.
think it's a little bit engineering still because
Yeah, it's not bad. A good first
it
start.
was written by engineers. It was written by, data scientists, data engineers, what do you call it? And other people who work in the engineering. And that's not, to cast shade on them, but it does show you some a little bit of bias too.
Now, the other piece of this is I'm going to ask chat. I'm going to remind them. If you notice what I have in my session, I'm going to remind chat that I'm a product manager and we are focused on outcomes, not outputs. So we're going to ask chat to provide us a 1-sentence response that ensures they understand the key session concern as it relates to TravCo. Okay. All right. So the next session, and this is where I'm just going to use the examples, Dean, that we have in here. So
Yeah,
now that we've done, go ahead.
no, it's like, let's start rolling the prompts out.
Yep. So now what we want to do is we want to talk about how do we understand the problem space. So we've given it all this great context. Now we want to start to hone in on where's our opportunity? What problem are we going to focus in on in this particular scenario? And the first technique that we're going to use is the jobs to be done board, right? Why do we do that? Because we want to put the customer first. So let me show you how I did this in here. Right? I said, based on the context, please refer to the jobs to be done circle. But you'll notice I even did this, Dean, as we were talking. I forgot to attach the slide. So I
Wow.
grabbed our jobs to be done template from our playbook. I said, stop, wait. We got to attach the playbook template to help us do that analysis. And that is one of the really cool benefits of the enhancements that ChatGPT and other AI tools have made is we don't have to explicitly tell us or tell it what the template is. We can take a screenshot or upload an image into our generative AI tool of choice, and it will do that analysis for us. You'll notice it helps us explain the problem space, give us our pains and gains, our jobs to be done, And then what we do is we ask it to narrow the scope and rewrite our jobs to be done circle, focusing on pains, gains, and jobs to be done. So we are asking it to get a little bit deeper.
Yep.
Okay. Now, the
And by
last
the
point.
way, these are small enough you can actually cut and paste those into a mural or a Miro board if you want.
Yep. Yeah. And actually, we've been doing that in our classes, right, as a way to streamline the process.
Yep.
Now, the last one I'll show you with one of our templates is our persona. So now that you have an understanding of the market, an understanding of the needs, a focus on the problem space and the jobs to be done, now we want to create a persona.
By the way, these two templates you showed, they come from our playbook, don't they?
They do. And Dean, you're going to share a link to our product side playbook so that people can
Right.
use our templates to
Yep.
help them build out and define their strategy and even to their execution.
All right. Well, I don't have a link right now. Maybe we can get Jerry yourself. Oh, there it is. Jerry just provided that link. Thank you,
There you
Jerry.
go. So this is Sabrina. So we're asking it based off of our pains, gains, and jobs to be done to build out a persona. Now, Dean, what's really cool about this is one of the love languages of AI is examples. They love examples. So we're actually killing two birds with one stone. Not only are we sharing the template, but we're sharing an example so that our AI session has a reference when building out this persona for us.
Right. One of the two things that happen here, generative AI, first of all, is really, really good at taking unstructured data and structuring it. It can take this example and it actually works better when you give it examples. So we're not only showing it a format of a template, but we're showing it how it's populated, even if it's not the exact same problem we're working on here. It
Yep.
uses that as an analogous, it uses as analogous information so it knows how to respond.
Yep. Now remember, this is a starting point. You take it, you tweak it, you adjust it. Now you can even have a little bit of fun. I asked chat to actually create a photorealistic picture of our prototype persona trying to park their car during rush hour. So again, meet Maria Commuter. I think Dean had a couple of other examples. My favorite was Jessica Parker, but we didn't go with Jessica this time around. So again, you'll notice we've begun to define the who and the why, right? Now I'm going to hand the baton over to Dean, and he's going to talk about how we're going to do the execution part of it. So Dean, I'm going to hand the
Oh,
baton over to you.
all right. I'm going to go ahead and share a screen here. Let me make sure. Joe, can you see my screen?
I can see your screen. Yes, sir.
All righty. So there we go. We actually have, I'm in my ChatGPT session. I think you said our persona's name was Sabrina.
Maria Commuter.
Maria Commuter. Okay. All right. Now, again, I went ahead and took that session starter. So to make sure we're on the same page, I went through many of the same prompts and got a lot of the same similar answers. If not, I could actually take some, Joe could slack me like, hey, we're a little bit off base here. This is a way we can currently collaborate. So we're going to make a name change here. And now my job, while it's generating and doing its thing here, let me go back here. I want to talk about how we're going to simplify shaping a solution by using simple examples to address complexity. I know that sounds like a lot of words there, but we're going to simplify the solutioning through simple examples here. So let me show you what I mean by that. Now that we have Maria identified, now that we have our pains, gains, and jobs to be done figured out, now that we have some idea of the outcomes we want to couch this solution in a way that it addresses an underserved need, what we call a problem opportunity. And we do that by answering the question, how might we? We want to make sure we understand what the product outcome is, that it addresses what's in it for Maria and what's in it for our company. All right. So we could sit there and write a very, very complex prompt that would take us a long time. Or with tree structures, what we could do is sit there and say, why don't I give you one branch as an example? So I'm actually going to fill out one branch. So let me just go ahead and get that up on screen here. I'm going to go back to my ChatGPT session here. I'm going to type that in, and you'll notice I basically give it a single branch. Let me scroll down a little bit so you can see a little more of the prompt. Okay. So we're going to talk about, hey, look, here's a branch of the tree. Here's a single branch. We're going to, I want you to fill in the other half of that tree and the other half of the branch. Then I want 3 more branches with 2 stems each. I want you to look at our problem opportunity, say, how might we solve for? And I give it some definitions of what we mean by business and product outcome, not by giving a definition, but by giving an example. So here's that first branch of the tree. Now, Dean, why do I have to go through this? Well, one of it is so we don't go through some mental atrophy. We still need to be thinking people as product managers. But the other thing is we don't have to write the prompt. But I made a mistake. I left out, we should do, yep, there it goes. I left out the diagram here or the template. By the way, this is the template you'll see in our Agile and our AI courses for the solution tree there. But let me go say, here's your template. And then let's give it some encouraging information. Thanks for reminding me. That way it knows to keep using this behavior when I leave things out. And it's going to go ahead and start generating this tree. So first of all, it does our business outcome we gave it. It recites what I gave, that first branch I gave it. But now here we go with problem solution. So look at solution number 2 here. All right. Leverage historical parking data. I actually think I like that one. I'm going to make a quick copy unless I see something better here. Another solution is develop a user-friendly app. Yeah, I don't like this one. So I might, push back on this one here because it's more about the technology. Integrate four features here. Talks about these. Notice it talks about the assumptions and unknowns. For example, what is the accuracy of voice recognition? What is the comfort of people? So it doesn't deserve to be treated as a source of truth, but it does set me up for great conversations. Okay. Now, I think with this, I'm ready to go ahead and take part of this. Give me a second here. And I think what I want to do, let's see. Okay, I want to go ahead and put in this prompt here. And we're going to use another type of template here. So let me quickly show you what I'm about to do here. I've done the outcome tree. I'm going to do the story map based off of the outcome tree. I'm then going to go ahead and create an epic for my backlog based off of a piece of that story map. And then I'm going to create user stories. So we're going to say the end game is user stories from an epic that is focused on a part of the user story map via a user story map that is focused on the solution tree. And we're probably going to go with solution 1, 2 here. So let me go ahead and put in the prompt. All right. I think what I want to do is I'm actually going to copy it. All right. Tap story map it there. Here's exactly the pharma system here. I think I want to say, let's focus on. All right. And so there's my prompt. Let's give it some guidance here. I want the narrative flow. Notice I give it I say, give me the user tasks in less than 10 words because they'll be applied. If you don't, some of these generative AI engines models can get really, really chatty and really verbose. Now, this time I'm going to remember to bring in my story map template. And by the way, this is a story map template you'll see in our Agile courses. And go ahead and hit. And it's going to go ahead and fill out. Think about it. You don't have to write a prompt. You just need to show it an example. This is actually an example from a pharma system. So for clinical trials. But it knows, because the way I said the prompt here, go ahead and use this as an analogous example here. Now look what we get here. All right. Market segment, urban parents. That's what we want. Maria commuter. That's our persona. Find and reserve. There we go. And so now you see her activities here in her narrative flow. In fact, I'm going to see if I can copy this. All right. And you can see it has some of her tasks here. I'm actually going to go over to the mural board that you all are looking from. All right. I'm actually going to go ahead and paste these tasks. There we go. And so notice I was actually able to paste these tasks. I'm going to go ahead and make it into a row. I'm going to make them smaller. And now I'm going to be able to sit there. Boom. Now I've got activities on my board. So you can see how we can use this for great conversations, even if it's not a source of truth. Now, I still want to narrow the scope down here even more. All right. So again, I want to just keep that, one of the things we always want to do as product managers is keep making that narrative. So I want to get a really fine-tuned narrative. So I'm basically going to put in a prompt here saying, let's further narrow it down. Let's work on, I want to see what the narrative flow looks like for recommending the spot. I want to see what the narrative flow looks like for, for going ahead and reserving the spot. And so we have the narrative flows here. So now we understand the journey our users taking, or at least we can start a conversation on that. So you notice I'm not really prompting a whole lot. The session has been started. It's been well primed. So now, again, let's further avoid boiling the ocean. And I want you to do is create a state diagram for me of this flow so we can visualize it some more. Now, one of the things they can do is they can take what we said in our words and create it into code. This particular code is called Mermaid. It's a notation used. So you notice it's in a code block here. I hit the copy there. I go over to my favorite tool. I've already typed one in here. So you can see, you can actually cut and paste this narrative flow. So you can, and so we had a question earlier, why would I use Copilot? Why would I use these different tools? You can actually support your chat sessions by using multiple tools in combination with each other. So for example, when Joe went to ask for the Tam, Sam, and Sam, he went to Copilot instead of going to ChatGPT, because Copilot gave him the most up-to-date information because it's a search engine equipped with AI as opposed to ChatGPT. So he was able to get the most recent market data.
And I just shared the link to Mermaid Live in the chat, just in case anyone was
Thanks.
wondering how we got there.
Right. So now it's time to start getting our backlog together here. Now, one of the things I hate is when I see user backlogs, that have epics that look like junkyards. They look like that junk drawer or that closet or the grandma's attic, all full of junk. So what I tell people, we teach people is, hey, when you create an epic, first of all, create it so it can be completed in 1 or 2 or 3 sprints, and write it in the form of a hypothesis instead. This way, you actually have a hypothesis of your assumption, something to do, then we will, if we do something for somebody, then these things will happen. We talk about tiny acts of discovery. These are very small, rapid experiments we can run, and then what metrics we can cover. Now,
And
this puts us in a, yeah.
Dean, real quick, that template you just shared, that's from our Agile for Product Management course, right?
And well, no, it's from our AI.
Our AI, yep, our AI product management course.
Yep,
That's
and it's
right.
from our AI product manager. So I talk about it. Let's reframe it. So notice I'm going to reframe this and say, let's narrow things down even more. Let's talk about, availability towards, so I'm taking information from just the previous flow. And let's see if we can go ahead and get the prompt running here. And let's see if I can get an epic that I feel that my engineering team wouldn't laugh me out of the room if I showed it to them, and where we could actually measure our success. So it's taken some time to think. Oh yeah. Conduct user interviews, low fidelity prototype, I'm not so sure I want a prototype at this time. And so this is where I want to introduce a concept known as RLHF, or being the human in the loop. So this is basically reinforced learning by human feedback. So I like everything else, but I want to remind it what a tiny act of discovery is. So for example, I would not want to see an A/B test because it requires statistical significance. You're not going to get that with a new product. Prototypes and pilots require engineering efforts. We want to validate our value and viability of our experiments in under 5 days. So giving it that information We refine that epic. So now it's doable by the team. I'm not throwing over some epic that'll, oh, we'll get it done in 6 weeks, and then it takes 6 months. So we avoid that. Now we create wireframes. Now we have tiny acts of discovery, and now we have some information that we can run from that. Now let
By
me
the way,
ask
you
another
can learn
question.
more about our tiny exit. We actually have a tiny exit discovery template in our product side playbook, and we talk about it in our optimal product management class for those wondering, perhaps.
Yeah. And so I'm going to put in a prompt here that I wasn't ready to do, but I'm going to say, hey, could you remind me of the 5 steps from our narrative flow? I just want to see if it hasn't lost track, because sometimes these sessions decay. Open the app. Oh, no, 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 no. So this is, again, more human feedback. You see, I thought it was going to lose its mind here. No, okay. All right. Maria already has the app open. All right. Maria is all logged in and ready to roll to work. Think about the epic from just reserving a spot based on the recommendation. All right. So again, sometimes we have to correct it. It usually tries going too broad than too narrow. All right. Now I'm getting some results I like here. Now, the reason I want to do that is I want to write user stories based off this narrative flow. So I'm going to give it a prompt here. Okay. And you'll notice what I've done here is I have a very formulaic prompt here. So based off our narrative flow, let's render. Okay. Actually, I want to say based off our narrative, epic stories, our backlog. Yeah, render the narrative flow steps associated with this based off here. It's going to generate a user story. It's going to use the Mike Cone use case. All right, it's going to give us a summary. It's going to say, as a user, as the username, I want to so that I can. It's then going to sit there and use the Gherkin acceptance criteria. By the way, you'll notice that I'm using Markdown. I'm using comments in Markdown here. Multiple givens, a single when, and a single then. Let's see what happens when it gives us all 5 user stories.
And Dean, remind everyone again why we're using Markdown. Why is it so
Because
important to do that here?
it is the native language that we see in generative AI. All right, let's take a look at our stories here. I feel like some of these stories could be split, but I actually like what we got. All right.
But it's a great starting point,
I think it's
right?
a
That's the
fantastic
key,
starting
right?
point.
We would never
Yeah.
take it as verbatim. This is our starting
Yeah.
point, right?
Yeah. I think, yeah. And like I said, I think this gives us a great starting point. And it lets us do one other thing here. It lets us move it into other formats. Let's say, okay, let's put these in Jira or ADO. Let's see it render the data for us as CSV. So now it's rendering the data as CSV. Notice I was a little specific here. I put a tuple here so it understood how to break that down. Now, while this is rendering this, I went back to Copilot for an earlier session and basically said, can you render the CSV into a table? Why would I do that? First of all, I can update it with live information. And Copilot has recently added features so I can actually edit this in Excel if I want. So now I have it in Excel. I've got it in a format that I can, so there it is. I've also got a format that I can go ahead and put it into Jira or to ADO. So now that we've got our backlog, now that we've got what we're doing here, let's go ahead and create our communications. Remember, we talked about socializing our work. We're going to wrap up here by socializing. So I want to create a position statement that talks about what our product does in terms of value delivery and why it's different. From that, we're going to generate a visionary press release based off of the AP model. And then we're going to write a futuristic FAQ because that's all part of the Amazon working backwards process for communicating and socializing our idea. So let me go ahead and I don't know, Joe, I feel like I can do a positioning statement. I can sit there and write one there. But what if,
I
let's
think
see,
we got a template for that, Dean, in
I
our
think we got a
playbook.
template for that. I do. Not only do we have a template from that playbook, we even have a library that we've been working on together here. So I'm actually going to just go to our positioning statement here. And I think I'm going to go ahead and copy this positioning statement prompt. And Joe, you can share this link if you want. You know where this is.
Yep.
All right. So let me go here and say, hey, we're create a positioning statement for us using this template. Remember, speak to the benefits, not the features. So you can see I'm doing this live and in person. I just go ahead and copy it in here. Let me fix that word. And so here we're going to write this template here. Let's see what we get for a positioning statement. For
So really,
urban,
so users have two options here, Dean. They can either grab the prompt from your GitHub view, or they can
mhm.
actually take a screenshot or an image from our playbook and drop it in here, but it
Oh,
accomplishes the
absolutely.
same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, if you are using a popular, and by the way, let's see, look, it provides. So unlike generic parking apps, reduces parking. So yeah, I think we've got a pretty good one to start with, Joe, don't you think?
I agree. I like it. It's a good starting point for sure.
All right, let's wrap up with our visionary press release. So first thing I want to do is our visionary press release. And I'm just going to do a prompt by reference. The AP style guide is well known. It's been known for decades here. So I just say, look, give me an AP style visionary press release. All right. Um, use that as a style guide. So, I tell it that we're trying to socialize this using the Amazon working backwards process. And away it goes. It's going to create for me a good, well formatted press
That's pretty
release
solid right there.
that I can work with our marketing team. By the way, by doing the positioning statement first, I set session context around benefits and value. So when we do make this prompt right after, this prompt is still focused on benefits and not features. So as you continue to prompt in a chain of thought here and reduce, you're also making the session work smarter and more like the way you want it to work. So now I don't have a press release that's full of garbage here. It does give me some features, but they're related to the benefits. And finally, our futuristic FAQ. And I'm just going to do it by category. Categories here happen to be the audiences. But just by giving it these audiences, it's going to go ahead and populate an FAQ based off the entire session now. So now is the right time to do our FAQ. Again, it's
Now,
gotten smarter. Time. Go ahead,
I-
Joe.
and Dean, the reason why we're doing the press release and the FAQ, this refers back to the Amazon working backwards model, right?
Right. Yeah.
Many times the working model references, hey, to pitch a new idea or a new concept for investment, start with a press release and an FAQ so that
Right.
stakeholders understand the opportunity and you can demonstrate the critical thinking and strategic thought into your idea. That's why
Right.
we're doing the press release and the FAQs as a part to recap or to kind of
Mm,
tie the bow on what we've been doing.
right. And think about it, Joe. We've just been prompting for about 30 minutes because we got a lot of introduction information here. And now we're ready to socialize information. Right.
Yeah.
We did this at the very so now I'm in a position after 30 minutes. Well, that's probably going to take an hour to answer some of these prompts. But after an hour, I know which conversations I need to have with who, with what templates and what tools. So I have a great presentation 2 weeks from now. So, Joe, tag team, my time to me to slap your hand and you to take it home.
All right. So let's do this. Let me share my screen. So let's recap, okay, where we are at. All right. And that is working with generative AI. So, Dean, I'm going to stop sharing your screen. I'm going to go to my
Okay.
screen. So, the rules of the road, right? Context, context, context. You've got to provide context and seek outcomes. Use the conversation starter. We're giving you in the GPT store our prompt starter. Use it, leverage it, use examples. Now, this is why the product side playbook is such a clutch tool for product managers, because not only are we providing you the template, but we're also providing you an example that you can share within your session while you're using a chat or a generative AI tool. Now, a few things. We've got to be responsible about how we use our tools. Be mindful of your organization's privacy and safety. You've got to be transparent with your outputs, right? Be aware in your particular company and industry, what are your compliance regulations? What are you allowed to do? And I'll tell you guys this. This is working with Dean now for a while on this. Practice, practice, practice. You're going to screw it up. It's okay. Keep going back. Try it. Rewatch this video. That's okay. That's the only way any of us are ever going to learn. We flew through this at warp speed because we wanted you to watch it from soup to nuts in terms of how we go from I've been smoke jumped into a scenario. How do I go from panic to execution in a calm way? Okay. So I think it's time to do our second poll. So Jerry, if you could, why don't you publish this out? Starting today, what will you do differently? So Jerry, if you can, why don't you go ahead and launch this?
By the way, we had a real quick here in the chat. Someone put we got the wrong link for the short link for the bit.ly link for the mural board. Here it is. Here's the link you want.
Okay. All right. I like what I see here. Experimenting and exploring. I love it. It's all about experimenting, right? You've got to find the AI tool that you love and use. Some people are very, very Gemini focused. Some are ChatGPT. You've got to find what works. All right, let's go ahead and end the poll. I love the engagement here. We'll share the results. I love it. Experimentation. You've got to experiment on how to use these tools. All right, stop sharing. And it's back on here.
Hey, Joe, I think we got some resources and other goodies, but
Oh yeah,
we probably
sit
want to
tight.
share.
Hold on.
Yep.
So Jerry will post in the link our community. So connect with us on LinkedIn. So Jerry will put the URL shortly. We do have a special offer. Okay. We
Special
have
offer.
a new AI product management course. Come check it out. Check out our syllabus. So use the QR code. Check out the syllabus for free. In our class, in our AI product management course, we're going to go through this together in class. We're going to practice these techniques. We're going to dive into a lot of these concepts deeper. We're going to talk about data and how to leverage data and how to understand if you have the right data and what are the different techniques and things to look out for. So it's a bridge between strategy and execution. We do talk about prompts and give you some prompts to use, but we also talk about and elaborate how do we manage those situations where we have to understand the problem to be solved. We do have an upcoming webinar coming up with the one and only Kenny Kranzler and our CEO, Rena Alexin, on pricing. So come check it out. We see the QR code here. If you want more of Dean and I, we have some upcoming training here at Productside. Check it out. We have a $500 off promo code. So I mentioned our optimal product management course. That's our foundational course with both Dean and Ryan. The one and only Roger Snyder is going to do our digital product management class. And then if you notice the soft plug on agile product management, we'll be doing that towards the end of August. So you get to see me more and talk about some of the agile elements that we briefly touched upon in today's webinar. So with that, we have, Dean, probably 5 or 6 minutes for some Q&A. So let's see what questions there are.
Yeah, I did answer some questions, like I said already. I think one of the questions was why move to Copilot? And it's not so much move to Copilot, but use more than one tool in combination with each other. For example, one of the things that, Bing or Perplexity gives you, because they are search with AI, they'll give you actually references and they'll do searches that are up to date. So when Joe went to do the, Tam Sam Sum, he got more recent information, right? Is the mural link? What's the, oh, Nicholas wants the ChatGPT link. Unfortunately, ChatGPT will not share the link with if it has images in it.
Yes. Dean
That's
and I
yeah.
learned that the
So
hard way just a
yeah.
couple weeks ago.
So the mural board and the resources that so Nicholas, yeah, we learned that we found that out the hard way. So we're having to share it a little bit old school this time here. Hopefully, I think part of that is because they can't control privacy. All right. So yeah, it's too bad. Could you share the link to your free AI? Yeah, we could share the link to that. Well, no, it's not a free AI PM course there. You want to
It's
go
the
back to
syllabus for the course is the free
it's a
part of it.
yes, a free syllabus.
So Jerry, if you can share the link to that in here, that would be awesome.
Yeah. What other questions are we getting here? So we got that. Why are we using Copilot here? Um, GPT store there. Yeah, we got that there. What else do we got there? Talked about socialize. I think we answered David's question via Perplexity. Took me a couple swings at that. Who else has got some questions? Come on. Now's your time to stump the chump. Who here, who here, who here wants to put it? Maybe somebody put in the chat one thing that they learned that they're going to try. Oh, you do, let's see. Do you do a scrolling sheet? Yeah. Do yeah. No, it's, if you look at the mural, we have it both ways, both broken, both as one big scrolling screenshot and individual pieces of the session. All right. Mario's going to go practice. All right. Joe, no questions, just that. Oh, okay. Oh, Thomas, glad to help you get you through your product management cert there. I am teaching optimal product management next week. There's still time to sign up for that. I think Joe, I think probably the next question we're going to have is how do we start working this into autonomous agents in AI? Yeah, because I think that's going to be the next, think about it. We did this webinar back on April 12th of 2023. Now we showed a lot more stuff than we did then. And I would imagine maybe 12 months from now, we're going to be talking about how we take these things we learn and bake these processes into autonomous agents. So keep an eye out for us because I think you and I are, or at least myself, we're going to be sort of pursuing that to say, hey, how can I make this more push button through and shareable through an autonomous agent? Now,
So
if you're
Dean, for
not
those who don't know, what is, if you could,
yeah,
boil it
yeah.
down, what does an autonomous agent mean?
So what you and I did with the prompts in 40 minutes, we would just put in, give it that session starter context, and it would actually run a series of prompts and run a series of questions and run a series of threads to get to the same outcome. And basically we would just say, okay, I got to present in 2 weeks from now. Here's the inputs I'm giving you. Here's the outcome I want. Go figure this out for me so I can rehearse this and provide this a couple weeks from now. As far as privacy, we should always be careful here. Yeah, don't assume that anything you post to these chat bots and these external tools are going to be seen here. So learn one of the things we said in our do's and don'ts, make sure you understand what your company policy is for using these tools. But good question, Louise.
And Dean, while we're doing this, I'm getting a bunch of LinkedIn invites. So guys, please don't be shy about reaching out to Dean and I on LinkedIn. We do a lot of articles, webinars. We share our experiences. Dean is the Yoda. No, I think
Yeah,
there's no surprise that our colors at Productside are the color of Yoda. I think there's a subliminal note there,
yeah,
but please follow us on LinkedIn. We
yeah.
share a lot of really great tips and tricks, and we're always
By
doing
the
webinars and blogs at Productside.
I got one really good question from Yanina here. Is the prompt result deterministic? If you do the same prompting next week, will you get the same result? We will get
Mm.
similar results, but not the same. However, because of the method, because we put a lot of context up front, it's going to be similar and not somewhere in left field. So we're still we're still on the same playing field and on the same page, just maybe not reading the same words, if that's another way of answering that. All right, Joe, top of the hour.
Guys, thank you so much. Please feel free
Thanks.
to reach out to us. I hope Dean and I
Yeah.
can see you guys in an upcoming Productside course. Otherwise, thank you for taking time out of your valuable days, and we look forward to seeing and hearing from you. Thank you, everybody.